What's going on, everybody? Long time no see. Joel, Muddy Crux Off-Road. Today we're going to be installing some Jeep cables. We've had these for a while. My life got thrown a couple curveballs, so we're just now getting to putting them on. We knocked it out real quick. There's a couple things that you should know. Okay, so there's a couple modifications we had to make, so stick around. You'll want to see this one. So this is what comes in the Jeep Cables Big 7 kit. We have 3 ground wires. We have 4 different power wires, but in reality 2 of these are going to get hooked together coming from the alternator to the power distribution center. So this is going to go like that. This is going to go into the fuse box that goes to the alternator. So really cool thing about these is they're all labeled. So like this one says starter, power distribution center, alternator, battery neg. One says fender, engine block. So they do a really good job labeling everything. They give you a couple different fuses, a couple zip ties. Something not pictured in here is you get the military style battery terminals. Those are already on my Jeep. I had an issue I had to resolve before I could make the video. So this is what it looks like coming out of the bag. We're going to give you a step-by-step instructions on how to do it. Okay, these are your battery terminals. See, those are the military style. So you have a bolt on one side and you loosen it on the other. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start taking apart this loom down here where all those wires come together. That is where a couple of your power wires are going to be. So I'm going to take apart this loom so I can kind of see what's going on, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so I got the battery out just to give us some more space to see. I also got that loom off there, so let me see if I can get this down in here without flipping the camera all around. So that's what it looks like without the loom on there. We're replacing this wire. This one comes off your alternator. These two here are your battery terminal wires. So one goes to the fuse box, one goes down to the starter. We're replacing both of those. And then we're replacing a couple grounds. So there's a ground here that goes to the fender. There's a ground that runs down and it attaches to the engine block down there, and then there's another ground that's supposed to be on the alternator stud, and I haven't found that one yet. But so I think our first step, we're going to do this ground here, and then I'm going to knock out a couple of the easy top wires and we'll go from there. Okay, so I got the first negative on. There's a bolt up underneath here. It's a 1/2 inch bolt. No, I'm sorry. It's a 15 millimeter. It's a 15 millimeter bolt. It's right here. It's got a couple other grounds on it, so make sure you keep all those grounds together. Next thing I'm doing is I'm going to do this short wire here that runs from the battery terminal to the fuse box. The cover goes over top of it, and then there's a little plastic little cover here, like that, when you take your lid off, and this just pops off there. It's just got a couple pop clips, and then 2 10 millimeter nuts. 2 10 millimeter nuts go right here, and then this cable comes off. So I'm going to throw this one onto the new battery terminal, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so I got the battery to fuse box wire on. I'm hooked all my crap back up. Next one I'm going to do is this wire here. This is the long negative wire that runs to your battery terminal. And it mounts down to your engine block, and I'm going to try to show you where. I've got the socket on it right now. So you see that extension. It goes down, right down into there. You can see the socket right there. So it's down there mounted to the side of the block. It's on a stud. It is a 1/2 inch bolt. So we're going to take that bolt off. We're going to swap it out with the Jeep Cables ground, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we're working on the negative cables right now. This was the existing negative cable I had. You see this right here? It branches off into 2. This part comes up and goes to your battery terminal. So this split is kind of weird. I've spent the last hour or so trying to figure out if you could eliminate this, and I don't see a good way to do it, because one side goes off to your engine block, which is fine. We're replacing that one. The other one goes to a block on the back of your alternator that has 3 or 4 other wires coming out of it, and it all comes up into one right here. Okay, so this was essentially right here, then there was another leg tied off. So what we're going to do is, just to make sure that we don't lose those wires for whatever reason or wherever they go, I snipped the wires. One of them I threw away. The one that's going to that block, we're gonna put a ring connector on it, and then we're going to just ground this to the block just to make sure that that's, you know, grounded like it needs to be. I don't want to have any other problems. Okay, so this is what ended up happening. That wire got grounded to this stud right here, along with the stud to engine block that comes in the kit. The other one we grounded to the block, and we ran it up to here. So we've got all of our negatives ran. Now all we've got to do is the alternator and the starter wire. So I'm gonna get everything unloomed for the starter wire and start pulling it up, and we'll go from there. Okay, so got the starter wire disconnected. This is what it looks like on your starter, right? You got a 8mm and a 1/2 inch to take those off, and this is what comes on there, right? Well, attached to this is also this other wire, right? So that exciter wire is part of this block. You have to cut the exciter wire off, put a little ring terminal on it. Now, instead of it having the one piece thing, we're going to have 2 separate connectors. Now notice on all my connections I use these heat shrink, you know, butt connectors, so that way we don't have to worry about anything getting wet and shorting anything out. So make sure you're heat shrinking stuff. I've got a really nice kit. It's like 16 bucks. I'll throw the link to that in the description. But you definitely want to try those. It's like 16 bucks for the kit I use. It's definitely worth the money. But we're going to get this all hooked up. I'm going to run the wire down for the starter and loom it, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're finished. Okay, so I got the starter ran. I've just got it kind of ran in there. You can see it down there connected to the starter. The exciter wire is this little green wire. It's also connected down there at the starter. I'm going to zip tie these together, clean it up a little bit, make it look a little bit more presentable. And then the only wire we've got left is just the alternator wire. So I got to figure out how that comes off. It's this wire here. It unbolts from the alternator, but it looks like it runs into this loom right here, and then it comes up into this, and I think it goes into the bottom of the fuse box. So I'm going to take it all apart, figure it out, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I figured out what I'm going to do. This wire comes off the alternator, runs into this loom right here, runs up, splits into the fuse box, and it's actually down here on the bottom. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but it's in the bottom of this little loom right here. And it goes up underneath the box, and it actually runs all the way up underneath and connects right on the other side of this stud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this from the alternator. I'm probably just going to snip it off here because I don't really want to go through all the work of pulling it out just because. And then the wire that goes from the alternator to this is, and it's got the fuse in the middle obviously, but the wire that goes from the alternator to this is just going to bolt onto the outside. So this right here is going to go on the outside here, and then this wire is going to go down to the alternator. The fuse will be in between. So that's what we're going to do. I'll show you the finished product here in a minute. Okay, so we got everything ran now. Here's our starter wire. It's ran down, hooked to the starter. You can see it down in here. You can see the little starter wire down there. I can grab that wire down there wiggling. I've got a green exciter wire right next to it. It's also hooked down to the starter. I'm going to zip tie these together, make those look a little bit cleaner. I've got the alternator wire that runs up over this way to the fuse, and then that fuse hooks on here. Additional to that, I've got the line that goes from the PDC to the battery. That's what this little one is that I still got to hook up. So we're going to hook them up to our Jeep cable supplied battery terminals and stick our battery back in here, and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, here we've got the finished product. So I got my 2 negatives here, got my 2 positives here. Obviously disregard the big cables there. You won't have these unless you have car audio. So just be careful that these terminals, I'm not sure if it'll pick up on the video, the little circle right there, that one says in. That one's got a P on it. I don't think you can see it in the video, but so I've just kind of done my best to tuck everything out of the way. I'll probably go through and clean this up a little bit better with zip ties and stuff, but that is the overall complete project. And we got down by the starter, alternator, got some good quality grounds now. overall very happy with the product. I want to give another big shout out to jeepcables.com for sending these cables to us and letting us get on board. So check them out. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check out jeepcables.com. And once again, guys, I just want to say thank you for watching. We couldn't do this without your guys' support. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe, like the video, comment down below. I want to give a huge shout out to jeepcables.com for making this video possible. I'm going to leave a link down in the description. They've got any kind of Jeep cables you could want. They've got XJ, ZJ, TJs, up to JKUs, all that stuff going all the way up. They've got all kinds of stuff. Check them out. Give them some support. We appreciate you, Jeep Cables, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.